All right, so let's move from DC now to Marvel, right? Let's talk about Spider-Man 2. So a couple of years back, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of that. So unfortunately, CCU weren't there, but
yes,
Tracy, Ricardo, myself, and Daniel, unfortunately, couldn't make it to this one, so we spoke about it, right? So we won't spend too long on the pre-ramble stuff. I just have a couple things I want to mention before I dive in, right? But CC, since you are now going to be here talking about Spider-Man, I would like you to do your pre-ramble just to talk about how you got into Sam Raimi's series, right? So there's a couple things I just want to mention, just side notes basically when it comes to Spider-Man 2, right? When it comes to the Spider-Man trilogy, right? It's because of how big it is, right? A lot of people forget that, this was not the first time that Sam Raimi, had tried his way with superhero films, right? Because there is still the criminally underrated Darkman from 1980.
Yes, I remember that movie.
This was where he teamed up with Danny Elfman for the first time. Wow, love it, right? Great film, right?
Oh, Darkman
very
is so good.
Criminally underrated, right? But what I love also too is, it's inspired by Batman. You can't shake that, right? But it's more a tribute to the Universal Studios horror films, right? And I'll bring that up with this review here, right? Also, when it came to Spider-Man 2 itself, right? So in the Spider-Man review, yes, I said that I absolutely love, Spider-Man 2. It is the best of this series, of this trilogy. But the moment where I realized how big of a deal Spider-Man 2 was when I saw a written review of it by Roger Ebert.
Wow.
He gave that a perfect 4 out of 4 stars. And he was talking about this is like the next phase of superhero movies where it kind of transcends popcorn entertainment. It's about telling really genuinely powerful stories, emotionally captivated stories with characters that just sympathize, right? And I think the reason why he loves it so much is because of how they fleshed out Peter Parker, much more than in the last movie, right? But the fact that a guy like him would give Spider-Man 2 4 to 4 stars, that was when I was like, all right, something big is happening here. This is like a game changer as far as superhero movies go, right?
And we were just talking about how he was not a fan of Batman. So him giving his seal of approval on Spider-Man is a big deal.
Exactly. And later on 4 years later, he would give The Dark Knight 4 to 4 stars, right? Because it's the best out of Nolan's trilogy, bar none, right? But for me, that was when I was like, okay, this show could change the game, right? Because this is where critics now, because when you're younger, you're thinking, oh, they don't care about superhero movies. They just think it's all silly kid stuff, right? But for a guy like him at the time to say, oh, this is like a masterpiece in the making, right? That one I was like, all right, this could change the face of how we view and analyze superhero movies going forward. And here we are 20 years later, about to talk about Spider-Man 2, right? Which still holds up, right? So, CC, since you were in there in that last chat about Spider-Man, can you just mention just your history with the character? If you saw the cartoons, how you felt about the trilogy, especially 2, and you can mention 3 because we kind of still had to mention 3, right? So talk Spider-Man to us.
Yeah, I can be brief about this because Spider-Man is kind of like Batman. I'm not a character that I'm always the biggest fan of. My connection with Spider-Man is actually even less than I don't know if I quite have a top 4. I don't know if I have a Mount Rushmore for Spider-Man. I mean, obviously the Spider-Verse movies are masterpieces, but when it comes to the live action ones, it's kind of more of a grab bag of kind of this one or that one, or Homecoming's pretty good. But when it comes to the Spider-Man trilogy, I was fortunate enough to kind of really get into it in the context of Sam Raimi as a filmmaker, who is not only a filmmaker, but one of my all-time favorite filmmakers. And I adore the Evil Dead trilogy.
Yeah, I am a huge Evil Dead fan.
I love Darkman.
Just doing a quick little shout out here, right? So, years back, I did a best and worst horror movie franchises. My number 1 is Evil Dead. I love Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, and Ash vs. Evil Dead, one of the best shows to come out of the 2010s. That's all.
Army of Darkness is a really special movie for me because in my journey to wanting to make films, it was the first time I watched a movie and I was like, this feels tangible, right? This feels like something I could make myself. Like there's a very like I can see the seams, but not in like a oof, this is rough kind of way, in kind of like a oh, I could do something like this. That's really cool. And it even feels like the kind of sensibilities I could make. And so like which I feel like I've heard apparently there's a lot of people who have that reaction to Sam Raimi. But yeah, Army of Darkness is really special to me. And the more I explore his filmography, there's like I love The Quick and the Dead. I love oh god, there's my favorite film of his is a Southern Gothic movie he made with Kate Blanchett.
Is it not A Simple Plan? No.
No, that one's also really good. That's him doing kind of dark Coen brothers. That one's also underrated, and I highly recommend it. The name escapes me, but I love the man. I've always loved the man, and this is one of the reasons why I haven't seen a Marvel movie in theaters in ages. But when he showed up for Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, I was there. I
went because his name was there.
Yep, I went because, and I wasn't disappointed either. Like, I love Elizabeth Olsen talking about how of all the Marvel directors she worked with, she was like, man, Raimi. The thing about Raimi that makes him stand out from all the others is camera moves. Like this is a man who, before we really get into filming a scene, has to choreograph where all the camera is going to be and how the camera is going to move and all that other stuff. And it was really exciting. And I really appreciated him talking. And I read an interview with him where he was like, me making Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was me returning to the genre that I kind of helped popularize after I got so much crap for Spider-Man 3 and me kind of showing everyone I can do it. I have still got it. I was foundational to this genre. You know, I am Sam Raimi. And which goes a long way. I fluctuate on the Spider-Man films. I haven't watched them in years. There's a lot about them I appreciate. I'm not the biggest fan of them. Like when I watched them the first time, and the only time I've watched them so far, I gave them pretty mid-review ratings, honestly. But there's a lot I've kind of grown to appreciate about them, whether it's the viscerality of the action, whether it's the actual sense of drama, whether it's the performances, and kind of Sam Raimi getting these brilliant character actors to play the villains and just kind of allowing them to run wild in a great way. I need to revisit Sam Raimi's trilogy, but I do have a lot of affection for it, and I do have a lot of I've grown to appreciate it more, and there's a lot about it, and there's a lot about it that at the time I was less fond of that I think now, especially in the way they're made. Holy crap! Like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy is a pretty effective film school, honestly, for just how to do action and drama in a really convincing way.
Yeah. So just one quick debate, right?
By all means.
I just want to bring everyone involved too, right? I brought this up in my review of Across the Spider-Verse, right, which came out last year, made it to my top 5, right? Where as far as like a Spider-Man trilogy, right? So of course there was Sam Raimi's one, started out strong, when he elevated with 2, and then fell apart with 3, right?
Yes.
And then there was the MCU version, right, which started off strong too. And I thought that it ended pretty solid as well too, with No Way Home. And they absolutely I thought just the execution in terms of just bringing in the previous Spider-Man into one film, somehow they made it work too. I was shocked that they actually pulled it off so well.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, actually you should. It works, right? It's not done in a nostalgia beaty kind of way like how Flash was, right? But we could argue that Far From Home was kind of like the little weak spot in the trilogy. Like I still enjoyed it. I really dug Jake Gyllenhaal's performance as Mysterio. I think that he was great, and the payoff in the end was worth it, right? But compared to 1 and 3, it's kind of the weak spot, right? Kind of the weak spot in my opinion, right? But the point again, with this, right? With the Spider-Verse films, right? So we already had Into It, we already have Across, and hopefully we will get Beyond, right? I suspect, right, with Sony, right, and
Mhm.
we really have to talk about Sony when it comes to Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
I suspect that they are trying to create, they want a second crack at having a perfect Spider-Man trilogy. They didn't get through with it with Sam Raimi, so they want another crack at it with
They
this
certainly they
Spider-Man.
certainly didn't do it with Andrew Garfield.
Right.
Yeah, part two, Amazing Spider-Man 2, no. First one
No.
was like, all right, that's fine, but two, no.
I don't
But yeah, I feel that's where they're
think.
getting at with it, right? Like it's Sony wants to make, the trilogy they always wanted, right? But because with
Right.
Spider-Man 3 now, they kind of interfere with what Sam Raimi wanted. I remember what Ricardo and I spoke about where, I felt like Sandman didn't need to be in the movie. It should have been Venom
No.
and Green Goblin too. But Ricardo, you said that, oh well, it's Sam Raimi's kind of sensibilities. He grew up on the character and we didn't really know him as well as all that. But because we grew up on the 90s series, the animated series, yeah, Venom was a popular character, even though it's at the
Correct.
time where villains need to be super strong and muscular and badass, man. You know what I mean? It's that, right? So it's that kind of paradigm that was the problem, right? And I guess that's why Spider-Man 3 just fell apart, right? But yeah, but
Right.
long story short, I feel like, again, this new Spider-Verse thing, this is Sony saying, okay, let me just try this again. We want to have our trilogy, right? So the MCU have their own Spider-Man trilogy. Let's have one that we could be proud of, right? So yeah,
Right.
that's debate. So any thoughts, guys, on what I said about the Spider-Verse films being this perfect trilogy that will make Sony happy?
I think the Spider-Verse. Here's my thing. I think in terms of Spider-Man, I can see the Spider-Verse films, and especially now that it's getting a little more breathing time and all that kind of thing to
Mhm.
whatever. I can see that film making a perfect trilogy if they continue to let Lord and Miller play and do what they did. Then by all means, you have a perfect thing. Now, I will
Mhm.
give you my hot take on the Spider issue. What I want Sony to do is to calm their whole body down. And if you insist on going on this, if you insist on going on this Spider-Verse
Oh
road,
God.
please, I'm willing to go on board with it, but please make it something that I can watch. I don't need another, my mother in the Amazon. He was there with my mother in the Amazon. And I'm even not looking
Oh,
forward to
yes.
Craven because it's just there. And
Oh
if you tell me that you want
God.
to, because if we're talking about Spider franchises and Spider trilogies and stuff like that, I thought that they were going to do Madam Web, and then you would have done Craven, and then you would have had maybe the final Venom or something would have somehow tied all everybody together, and that way you would have been able to have a spider-less universe with spider adjacent characters, and I would have given you your props. But nah. So my hope is on the animated series being the full thing.
Yeah, I think the most damning thing I ever heard about I went to see I can't remember what movie I went to see with a friend. Same friend. Shout out to Bobby Carmi, who's a critic in his own right. We got out we watched the trailer for Craven, and he leans over to me and says, "Wow, I wasn't expecting them to come out with White Panther so soon, but..."
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Ouch.
And I can't get that out of my head.
Look at the poster. It's very Black Panther
It's
when you think about
kind
it.
of once you notice it, it's kind of uncomfortable because it's like, of all the superheroes to try and do your own version of, why did you pick one like this, and why are you doing it this
technically,
way?
isn't Craven a villain or anti-hero by now? I
He
don't
is.
know.
He's no, not even anti-hero. He's a villain. He is a villain.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Yeah. The show
I don't know
selling
where
him
they're
on
getting
being
this
a villain,
shit.
killing people. Yeah, killing people. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. Well, just wrap up, and well, Ricardo,
go
if you have anything to weigh on this whole, again, Sony with the perfect Spider-Man trilogy, again, you could say something. But yeah. CC, you could finish.
No, I was gonna say, like, I agree that, like, Sony. I definitely think that Sony would, in a perfect world. I mean, I hope that Sony has the integrity that after they do the third Spider-Verse film, they'll go, all right, that was nice, and now the trilogy is complete. Because I've often said this, the problem with Hollywood trilogies is that they don't plan them as trilogies beforehand. They make a movie, it's kind of the dark side of what we were talking about earlier. Remember, because we were talking about how there was a time when not every film was guaranteed to get sequels, and the problem with that, and I think James Gunn called this out, and I think there's a lot of franchises where this is true, they make a movie, it's a hit. The filmmaker is not necessarily planning on more, but, if we do make more, they'd be happy. But then it's a hit. And the studio is, oh, shit, you get a sequel out. And so the guy gets to, make a sequel, and they get to make, and it's even better than the first one in some cases. And then they have to bring it home with a third film that brings all of the trilogy's themes and storylines to a conclusion. And it's clear from that they didn't have themes and a storyline to bring to a conclusion. They've got to make it feel like a satisfying ending without having built to it in the first place. And so you just kind of end up in the situation where, and this is why I think the best chance we have is going to be with these Spider-Verse films, because it's clear that this is an overarching story. It's very clear that there are themes and ideas with this that Lord and Miller are pursuing, and that this is going to be a trilogy, and a very cohesive one. Much like it's the difference between it's the difference between Raimi's Spider-Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. It's a difference between clearly James Gunn had a vision in his head for what the trilogy would look like once he really got going and was brought in to write them. Raimi, I could actually tell he was going places, and I feel like each film kind of had an idea he wanted to explore as Spider-Man and MJ's relationship developed. But as far as an overarching vision and an ending that he was building towards, that's been the big issue. And then definitely I felt the same way with the MCU Spider-Man trilogy, why I didn't bother with the third one. Amazing Spider-Man was definitely not building or going anywhere. So yeah, I mean, Sony is definitely, but like Tracy was saying, Sony is kind of Sony's own worst enemy here. Sony, honestly speaking, if the only person who could get in Sony's way is Sony, because that's kind of all of whom Sony has had to blame up until this point. Let's remember, the reason Spider-Man 3 is the way it is not because of Sam Raimi. It's because of Sony. It's because of all of their decisions and mandates and their backseat cooking. It's so, if we're going to get a good Spider-Man trilogy, we're going to try this again. Yeah, Sony just needs to get out of Sony's own way.
Yeah, exactly. So before, just quick thing before we get to you, Ricardo, and then we'll jump into the show, right? I love that we're talking Sony this, Sony that, and yeah, we actually gonna have a complete, hopefully, Venom trilogy. Because we all want a Venom trilogy, right?
We all wanted that.
Look. And I will stand by this. The first one is, if you have absolutely nothing to do on a Saturday night and it's showing on TV, and you have some bears on you, watch that. You'll have fun. That's what it is. Mindless. You forget about it the next day, but kind of fun in a kind of ridiculous kind of way, right? And of course,
weirdly horny
song, right? Whatever.
Weirdly
the second one,
horny.
horrible, right? And the third one, well, what's coming up? Okay. I'll guess I'll see it whenever, But by the way, Ricardo, yeah. So that's before we jump into Spider-Man 2. Yeah. So quick thoughts on what I was saying about, the Spider-Verse films being Sony's attempt at making another perfect try, having a second try at a perfect Spider-Man trilogy, even though they botched it with Raimi's films.
Yeah, they kind of, sorry to say, the MCU kind of embarrass them a little bit with their material. And a lot of people we could talk about I forget her name, the woman,
the director of
no, the head of Sony right now. What's her name again?
Not Amy Pascal. Is it Amy Pascal?
Pascal.
So she was, yeah. I don't know if she moved on, but she was at the time, yeah.
Right. Yeah, Pascal and Avi Arad and all these people who,
oh god,
try to put themselves as the stewards of Spider-Man, especially now that Stanley has passed on. it's interesting to watch them operate, because now the live action stuff with all that Madam Web stuff, you could tell they want to like square everything. Because like I was like, why make Madam Web, right? In my head, the logic of why make Madam Web, and the only logic to make Madam Web is multiverse, right? That's the only relevance of the character. So like they say, okay, like you know, grandfather in all of this nonsense about why it is that this character here and who here and why. And because the actual product is a mess, it don't really matter one way or the other. Because again, nobody cares about that multiverse stuff on its own conceit.
No.
The reason why Spider-Verse works is because of Miles and what they do with Miles. The multiverse stuff is after the fact. They could have straight up just make a Miles movie and it would have worked, with all that art style and all that craft and great voice work and whatever it is. They didn't need to do multiverse stuff. The multiverse stuff is the red meat for the big Spider-Man fans, because it have a bunch of nerds out there who love Spider-Man and the Spider-Car and all that fucking bullshit. Right?
Yeah.
But
guilty as charged.
Right. And look, I like it too, I'm a Spider-Man fan. I know what that bullshit means. I get it. But then what they do is they write a great like overarching narrative and a lot of like overtones about what it means to be Spider-Man. Everybody behind the mask, a kind of general universality with characterization. That stuff is what sticks. That's brilliant. And then they make other conceits going forward, right? Now, when trying to bring back another Spider-Man conceit going forward, and especially since the time of Raimi, them doing a perfect trilogy is the only way for them to like save that face and legacy. Because look, Avi Arad, he had legacy intact, right? He's an old asshole who that is all he care about, right? So is that. But yeah, I think that you probably have something, you're onto something with that. I don't know one way or the other, to be honest. But we'll see. Time to tell. But we could get into Spider-Man now, because I was talking about my, history of this film in particular. This was kind of the first movie or the first kind of trailer on the internet for me. This is the first time I actually like download a full trailer online and talking about it online, that kind of thing now. Right. And I remember the big memory about this. So I went to see Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. That was the Christmas before this, and we didn't know what was going on. So I remember going to Lord of the Rings. It's still probably my favorite cinematic experience of my life, which is Christmas night with my family watching Lord of the Rings Return of the King. Pretty damn awesome. I don't know what happened to this dude there, but I was a friend of his. He was my aunt's ex-boyfriend. Big nerd, really cool guy. I remember seeing the trailer for Spider-Man. This trailer, and that's the trailer with the car, where the car launches into the restaurant, and it flips, and then Peter flips that rotating sequence. Yeah. Nobody saw that apparently. So I was like, hey, Dread, look at this. This is going to be real hard. And this had the crowd in uproar, Dread, because that teaser trailer is great, right? That teaser trailer for Spider-Man 2 is absolutely amazing. First things first, one, that great sequence with the car and, Peter grabbing MJ and they rotating the car at the same time. Great sequence. That's one. Two, get to see Dr. Octopus for the first time. Look great. Two, three, a vast improvement in the swinging, because they nailed the camera sliding down the whole buildings, and then they superimpose Spider-Man with him moving at the same time with that and timing it. It looks so much better though, and it's like, all right, this is gonna be something special. This looking amazing. This looking hard. That first trailer is great. It starts everything with that, and that was like the big hype up going into this film. I was not a super fan of the first one, and actually has a real simple reason. I didn't think the action was all that great. Like it had some okay action, but it didn't really have any big set pieces or anything like that to blow me away. And we know the obvious answer for that, because 9/11 happened. That's why. Them buildings. You could tell they was going to use them two buildings not there anymore. That was kind of pissing off everybody that they'd being really bad things. They did that. They decided to do this whole New York rah moment for America at the time. But I remember it not being all that great. It's not a good film. It's actually really, really great Spider-Man film. But I felt it needed the juice of the action to sell it. This film, we definitely got that. Right? This film, they definitely get that. Great set pieces, great action. There's this other great moment with I think this is a teaser trailer where they do the whole swinging thing, and then they do the whole contact mirror thing with Doc Ock's glasses. That's like a great zoom shot. Looking back. Just go back and watch it and tell me when you see it. And it's Peter swinging, and then they zoom into Doc Ock, and then they reflect his glasses, and he climbs up the building. Like, This is good filmmaking, though. This is like amazing. And like you forget how much like Sam Raimi is one of those dream scenarios for a lot of like nerds at the time. He's one of these guys who you can't believe somebody like this getting fucking Spider-Man. Now, that don't make any sense. You thought it was like some bullshitter bigwig like because before we had what do you call him, thing for X-Men now, Bryan Singer. And like Bryan Singer is not a comic book guy. Clearly, he's not nude. He's not one of us. As they say, this felt like one of us. He's one of that. And yeah, listen, this second film felt like the perfection of the material. It felt like this is how he had to do it. Making Doc Ock the villain, perfect call. Like, and is who they get for Doc Ock too. It's like big time character actor Alfred Molina. You're serious? That's a great call. Let's find out. And yeah, so said so done. There's a lot of this movie works. We had to get it, but yeah, that's just my introduction to the film itself. Just that trailer and how I feel about it. And yeah, it's the first trailer I watched more than once. I downloaded from the internet. It was on Kazaa, if you remember what Kazaa was. I
remember. Mm-hmm.
Right, it was that. It was like, so I remember when it downloaded, we had to worry about buffering and not streaming. It wasn't streaming then. You had to buffer, so that shit used to take forever because nobody had. I didn't have I didn't have dial up yet or DSL. And dial-up, which is trash. We didn't get DSL yet. We didn't get anything faster than that. So what I could have done though, is get an amazing 480p quality. That was like the high-tech quality back then.
Yep. Yes, that is memory.
That was the high-tech quality. It had no 720p bullshit. Fuck that. No, it was 720p was impossible. That was like that's sci-fi. But you could get 480p, and I had to download it, and it take 12 hours overnight.
Oh my
God. That was the days.
Those were the days.
Those were the days.
Wow.
480p, it take 12 hours overnight. And I can't remember watching Spider-Man trailer overnight. But that trailer real hard. It was like a 3-minute trailer. It wasn't the whole movie. It was like a 3-minute trailer. Like a 20-minute show, because I remember Naruto was like, used to take you whole night. But Naruto episodes. But a trailer would take you like about 2 hours. Like, it wasn't so bad, but still, I had to go and sleep. I studied for the test anymore. I had to go and sleep. I still in high school. Whatever.
Wow.
Right. And like it was real hard. Like that trailer, just so hard because you can't believe it when you watch it here. It's like, boy, this is gonna be the best fucking movie ever, though. Word.
Yeah. And just to add to the intro before we start, right? Tracy, we could relate to this though. Spider-Man desktop wallpaper.
Yep.
Adorned.
I have that note right here.
Yeah. It adorned mine. What I was
which movie that's how the day they stood still when that came out. Can't take the Spider-Man trailer, so that too. Can't remember going to see that with some high school friends.
Wait, really?
Same year. I think same.
Wow. That was right before, exactly. It was leading up to that. So I remember to go to see this in National with some friends. At a date, back in the days when GT mattered. It was in high school. I remember going to see that trailer, and I remember that was the second trailer. So by then the second trailer came out. That's the one where you see him swing through the truck space for the first time.
Yes.
He's using the boat webs. Right. And he's sliding on the door or something like that. Yeah. Hard. Like it's this movie had a ton of fucking hype going into it, Judd.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let me just jump in. But I love how you build that energy there, Ricardo. I really appreciate that, right?
I just love the fact that you people insist on making me feel old. So, talking about being in high school.
I am your age, Tracy. I am your age.
I know, but you're talking about high school. I was in an office in 2004. Don't know.
I know. I going to get. I know. It was A levels.
Oh my God.
Not our
I mean, granted, I started working when I was 19, but the point is,
I was 19. I was doing A levels, right? I was 19 at the time.
Oh my God.
I was 19 at the time, and I was just wrapping up A-levels. So yeah, it's around that time.
So my review will be based on the director's cut of Spider-Man 2, which I watched because I was curious.
There's a director's cut?
Right. Yes, it is, right?
Oh shit!
Yeah, I was trying to remember. Wait, what was so significant about what was different in this one? So I watched it, right? And what's so funny is that they call it Spider-Man 2.1, and I couldn't help but think of the Blueprint 2.1.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Jay-Z, I was like,
that bullshit.
Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And everything was 2 point this and 2 point that.
Yeah.
Shut up. The internet. Shut up.
Thank you, internet. Thank you, Matrix.
Yeah. What I will say, CC, is that I would say seek it out, watch it. It's not like one of the best director's cuts you'll ever see, but the stuff that they took out, I understand, is really about pacing, right? It's a pacing thing. They took it out. But I'll mention one deleted scene that I felt they should have kept, but actually a couple, but I'll get to that in a bit, right? Well, sorry, I trimmed one that was in the theatrical cut and one that they took out altogether that I felt they should have put in, right? But anyway, onto the show. So the opening sequence is really effective in terms of setup. Where Peter Parker / Spider-Man is, right? He's trying to juggle a lot of things and it's just so hard, right? So he has to be Spider-Man, but he has to have a steady job, right? So this man is a pizza delivery guy, but he also doing the photography thing as a gig as well. And there's a nice little sequence where you have to deliver pizzas at this time limit because at the place I think is 29 minutes you have to deliver pizzas.
This is Asif Manvi was the pizza guy who the shop.
Yes, I was wondering who he was. Yeah.
Used to be in the Daily Show kind of stuff. And then this fella from Chappelle Show was in it too.
Donnell Rollins. I was like,
Rollins,
Ashley Larry was
Ashley Larry, right.
That's Spider-Man. Yeah,
at the time, that was a big deal for us because Chappelle was the biggest thing at the time.
Of course, yeah. But Spider-Man took that guy's pizzas. That was the line, right? I think I never played the Spider-Man 2 video game, right? Shame on me. Yeah, there's a stage, sorry, I almost say sequence. Yeah, where you have to deliver pizzas within a certain time.
Right.
Like, oh, that's cool, right? That was really cool. Even and you see like how this is stress he going through because he's trying to make money so he could pay rent at this apartment he's at. At this university he's at, he always sleeping in class or whatnot. He always sleeping in Dr. Kurt Connor's class.
Right, we call him Lizard,
Lizard. Here's the thing about when I saw him for the first time, I was like, all right, they're setting up a party. I love this.
Right.
I love this. Even though we had to wait until the Amazing Spider-Man to see the Lizard, I was like, all right. And that same Lizard shows back up in No Way Home. I was like, all right, well, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah. But because I was a fan of the Spider-Man comics during the 90s and the animated TV series, I was like, was like, all right, part 3, we're gonna have the Lizard. And I was excited back then, right? Harry Osborn, right? He's now the head of special projects at Oscorp. He invites Peter to see one of his scientist role models, who is Otto Octavius, who is played magnificently by Alfred Molina. Peter wants to write a paper on him, right? But at the time of this film here, when they introduce Otto's working on this project, right? On Fusion, right? And Harry's is still mad that Peter's, taking pictures of Spider-Man for the Daily Bugle because, of course, he still blames Spider-Man for the death of Norman Osborn, right? His father, right? In the first film, right? Of course, it's no surprise Peter is still in love with MJ, but, because he didn't want her to be put in danger, right? Because she almost died in the first one. In the end of the film, it's like, we should just be friends, and, they had a little kiss, and that was it, right? She actually because they set it up in the first film, actually, I actually forget. Yeah, she actually takes the acting career thing seriously, right? She actually is starring in the play, and she actually invites Harry and Peter. Well, Harry saw it before, but she invited Peter to come through, right? We'll get to that later.
Wait, this movie have the meme with Harry that's snarling at Peter from the balcony. That's this movie or the two?
Yes.
That's
also. Although speaking,
that's Patrick. Yeah.
Okay.
Although speaking of Harry Osborn, it is so nice to see a movie with a performance by James Franco before he was outed as an absolute weirdo. Like,
right.
Simpler times.
Yeah. And just to get to that whole theater sequence, right? Because Peter's on his way on his little scooter, right? He want to go to that play to because it's all about promises, right? So you want to keep that promise, right? Yeah, there's a little car chase going on, so he had to switch into Spider-Man mode and do his thing, right? I like just this chase sequence alone. I thought was really great, though. I like that there's a moment where one of the police cars flips in the air, and then Spider-Man just does his web thing to keep it from dropping, right? And then we get a great cameo. I remember seeing it for the first time because prior to seeing that film, I had gotten into the Evil Dead series, right? So, and I mean,
yeah,
Evil Dead 2 remains the crown.
My guy.
Right, of them. Yeah, Bruce Campbell, Ash Williams show up, right?
Right. This was supposed to be a big they were supposed to reveal him as Mysterio in the third one.
Oh really?
Remember he was in the first one as the announcer. Shows up again.
Yeah, he's the announcer in the second one. He's like he's the waiter in the third one.
Right.
I love I love his cameo in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness because it feels like it's in keeping with these cameos, especially the post-credit scene where he finishes punching himself, stares at the camera, and goes,
Yeah,
Right.
I remember that.
"Oh man."
But yeah, in this case though, unfortunately, Peter reaches late, and Bruce is like, "No, you can't get in. The doors are closed." Right?
Right.
It's all about the illusion, man, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
There's a funny bit that happens afterwards where Peter is outside waiting for the play to end, and there's this Asian woman with a violin, right? And she's plucking
Classic.
at the strings there, and she's doing the Spider-Man, Spider-Man. It's so
New York.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's just
New York.
pure New York though, because it reminds it. Of course, it's reminiscent of when you saw that that hobo guy
Right.
in the subway with the guitar singing that same 60s theme song though. I love that moment like that. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Like that was awesome in my opinion, right? But yeah, seeing her sing it over though was so cute.
And off key, yeah.
Off key, yes. So like, wow, I love it, right? Yeah, MJ come out the theater. She's looking for Peter, and MJ's new boyfriend shows up, and I like that you only see the side view of his face. We don't know who he is as yet, and then they leave, right? And then some police cars pass, and it's like, all right, well, back to being Spider-Man. So he does his thing, right? So they set up one big conceit here. So while Spider-Man is swinging, it's like, oh shit, no webs coming out of my wrists.
Right.
And he falls smack dab into like some metal pipes on this roof, right? And for me, the distance he fell from and he forced that impact, he should either be dead or his back should be broken though. But
Well, they addressed the back thing later.
yes, I was about to say they addressed it. I was like,
well, so here's the thing with that, right?
Though.
Right, so here's the thing with that, right? So yeah, this was one of the things I remember in Spider-Man 1. This was a big change, and this was one of those nerd changes I could understand the nerds complaining about, which is
I was fine. No man-made webs.
Right, natural webbing coming out of his body, right?
Yeah.
But the big complaint about that is because, hey, sometimes Spider-Man is run out of a webbing, and that's be a whole thing. So he's had to rely on not. So what are you gonna do with that? And then they decide to address it by making it this psychosomatic thing, which is so interesting and weird. But it's such a bizarre call, but it kind of works.
It's Sam Raimi.
Yeah, it kind of works. It's so interesting though. Because I was wondering, were they going to do that? They're going to do him running out of weapon? What are they going to do with that? And making it a psychosomatic. It's such a strange call. Mm-hmm. But it's cool.
Yeah, and believe me, it caught a lot of people off guard. Like when you see it for the first time, it's like, what?
Right.
What? You know what I mean? It works, right? All right, so there's another cameo that follows, right? So this is where Spider-Man, right after he falls, right? He gets into the elevator and he's going back down, right? And this guy shows up, right?
Right, this was popular in that time.
It is Hal Sparks. I was familiar with him.
He was kind of
a comedian.
Dance a little show called the I Love the Series, because back in VH1, that was one of the shows I used to watch there. I love the 80s, which had They had two seasons. It was like I Love the 80s, Strikes Back in 3D, right? And then they had the spin-off.
He was in
70s,
oh gosh, is that a show?
2000s, you know?
Is that a show? He's not a comedian, but he's on another show. He was in Queers Folk. Was he in Queers Folk?
I never got around to watching that show, unfortunately.
Right. I swear he was in Queers Folk. So he's popular.
Right. Mm-hmm. So in the director's cut now, you get a longer version of that bit, right? I think in the theatrical cut it just runs for about half a minute, right? But this one, in retrospect, the joke is just Spider-Man is in the elevator and there's this random guy there and the guy making small talk. That's the joke, right? But yeah, I can understand why they trim it, because the in the director's cut it just runs for about 2 minutes and they're like, all right, we get okay, this riffing, all right, I get okay, right? But it's not a scene that I would say I would remove altogether. It's just it's more of a side gag, right? But it's just in the director's cut. It just turns into random guy talking about, I work in this law firm and, I could, work something out with you, help promote you or, advertise you, whatever it is. That's a joke. And it's because it's Hal Sparks, he just going off the cuff and that's a joke. But it's like, all right, just get to the point, right? But whatever. So back to Otto Octavius, right? So now we get to see the experiment he's working on, right? It's just basically the creation of this fusion-based energy source, right? So it's sun-like in terms of its energy, right? And earlier on, there's a moment where Peter asks him, how will he be able to stabilize that fusion, right? Because with the power of that, if it grows, right, it can wipe out New York. Well, later on they say half of New York, right? I don't know why with movies they always say, it could take out half of New York. Why did they say wipe out the whole state and they're like, oh, it's half of New York, whatever. What if it's like a quarter or 3/4? Anyway, nobody cares. Moving on, right? So
Just
yeah,
a
he has
little Armageddon.
yeah, so he has an official launch of it at this big ass apartment because New York, right? And you see how he goes about it, right? So he constructed this special harness with these large mechanical tentacles, 4 of them powered by AI, right? He has this inhibitor chip, which is located at the top of the harness, so he could control them, right? So let me just talk about the Oscar win this movie has, right, for best visual effects, right? Because
Yeah.
early on, you're just watching Spider-Man do it. It's like, I mean, you see it before, you see it 2 years ago, right? But when you see Otto's tentacles introduced, that's when you're like, all right, that's why that shit win an Oscar, but
You're like,
I
wow.
love bone-like
That-
design of the tentacles, boy,
Yeah.
and just the octopi movements they have. Like, it's not entirely
And they all feel like their
octopi, but
own
it's
personality, you know.
Yes.
yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I love that though. And just the reveal of it though, I love Danny Elfman's music for this too. So haunting when you just see that sort of like not so much a crane shot, but kind of is like the camera's like panning from his feet on when they just seeing like the tentacles just rising. I love that shot though. But just the design of the tentacles though, like I just love that. So yeah, just while I pause there, yeah, just any thoughts on just the design of those tentacles?
No, yeah, this was a masterwork, just craftsmanship across the
Yes.
board, from with CG puppetry. I mean, this is the best of the best at the doing the job, Judd, and it really
Yes.
comes together brilliantly. Why it works so well, and I forget somebody else like breaking down the nature of, I forget which video it was. I think it was on TikTok or something like I saw this, where the person was talking about one of them is like a female, like a woman, and the other one is like this. All of them is like a representative of Doc Ock's personalities kind of split up in a sense.
Wow.
Which is one is kind of like his
I didn't
wife,
know that
one is
one.
kind of like his
So one kind of represents his real life wife. Then okay,
right,
that's cool.
right. That is the whole thing, and it does get into all of these really good
That's
calls about it.
smart.
But dude, this is like by far the biggest like thing about this, because like Doc Ock is a cool character. Like, it's a character I like a lot of his stuff in the comic. The video game that the other day that did a pretty good job with him. Like that version is great too. But this is just such a smart, like, across the board. It makes so many great calls with this.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's all of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and then for me, once those tentacles are brought into the film, like the VFX just got bigger and better and better and better, right? So we'll get to those with some of the sequences, right? So yeah, Otto starts the fusion reaction. He uses this rock called tritium, right? And I love where there's a great close up of Otto wearing like these goggles, right? And one side is lit, and he says, "The power of the sun in the palm of my hands." I love
Yeah.
how he
Oh,
delivers
that line
right?
is so good.
Yeah. And then of course, well, obviously the power source gets, it increases its size, and then it just starts getting magnetic, so all the metal just starts getting pulled, and it's all chaotic and all that kind of stuff, right? And Peter ducks out, goes in his Spidey suit. He actually saves Harry from getting hit from like a nearby server, right? I love Harry's response. He says, "This doesn't change anything." I love that. Like, I know Harry real petty in this show, but I understand. I understand. He is that character. That's what he is. But he real petty in the show, right? But anyway, Otto's wife unfortunately gets killed because
Rosie.
glass from the windows end up hitting her. And the inhibitor chip is burnt out now, so now the arms are
Right.
fully independent, right? So Spidey literally has to pull the plug. That's what he does, right? And this is right before Otto gets shot, and that wipes out the power source for now, right? Going back to Harry though, like there's a moment where he's out of the building, right? And then this cop telling him like, "Yo, Spider-Man saved your life," and Harry's like, "He humiliated me. He humiliated me by touching me." Bruh. Wow, Jesus.
My thing with Harry is that, the whole trying to be tough and be his father. Because there's
Yeah.
certain things that he does, there's certain ways that Dafoe moves in the first one. That when you see how he moves and the way he's dressed and how he acts in this one, he's really trying to be his father to the point of just being messy. So that
Yes,
whole
absolutely.
he humiliated me thing was just, yeah.
Yeah. And then we get what I assume, I can imagine actually, is Sam Raimi's favorite scene in the movie. It's the hospital scene.
Oh, yeah.
I love
Oh,
setup
without
of
a
it
doubt.
with Otto on this hospital bed, and you just seeing how large and tall these tentacles are because they extended over his body while he's on the bed, right? And this is great wide shot where you just see just how long they are, right? Fun fact: one of the doctors is actually played by John Landis.
Right.
D. John Landis. But because all them masked up now, you don't even know which one it is. I don't know. I assume it's the one with the chainsaw. I'll get to that in a bit. I could be wrong, right? But anyway, so the plan is basically just a slice of the arms and do this laminectomy to try to get because there's some metal that was grafted onto the spine, right? So you're trying to get all that out, right? As an Evil Dead fan, I absolutely love the scene.
Yeah.
Just like Doctor Strange in the Multitude of Madness, this is Sam Raimi returning to his horror roots, right? The tentacles just act on their own, they're just throwing people about. I remember like people found that scene to be regular violent, but I was like, look, yes it is, but I would have said
this is the guy who made Evil Dead.
Yeah, I would have said if there was blood involved, I would have been like, all right, yes, I can understand why you find it violent. But just people being thrown about and they get hit real bad, but it's like not that graphic. I think to be graphic, not
I think what's happening is the viscerality of the scene is making people feel like it's more violent than it is, because like people are getting like technically it is a bloodless scene, but like there's that scene where they drag one of the doctors into the shadows and she like actually claws up the earth
into the floor, and I'm like,
I think they use candle wax for that scene. It's great. It's great.
Okay, that is
so good.
Yeah. But it's just really to show just how fast and deadly these arms are, right? I love that you see this close up of Otto's face, because he's knocked out, right? And has his bandage over. He has a bandage over his eye, so he doesn't even know what's going on, right? And going back to Evil Dead now, there's a tribute where one of the doctors grabs a chainsaw, and just the way how the editing is, it's very much like Evil Dead. That quick cuts, the quick zoom in on the chainsaw, right? I assume maybe that guy was John Landis. I could be wrong, right? And unfortunately, with the guy with the chainsaw get killed too, right? But yeah. But I love how right after the tentacles killed everybody in the room, Otto wakes up, right? Like he regains consciousness, right? And then one tentacle pulls the bandage from his eyes as he wakes up, right? Last point I'll make before we get to your thoughts on the scene, guys, right? Yeah. So he does a pre-Darth Vader from Revenge of the Sith yell. No!
Yeah. Oh boy, I was about to talk about that.
And like the tentacles join in and it works.
I love that. And then why I say Revenge of the Sith now is because a year later we got Revenge of the Sith. So I feel George Lucas watched as like, all right, I want Darth Vader to yell. No.
I feel like it's also more George Lucas and Sam Raimi both watching similar movies growing up.
Yeah.
Possibly.
And this last point, because even I could tell with especially where you see Otto rebuilding his lab, it's very Frankenstein. Like he's both Victor Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. I love that. And there's a line that I'll bring up later on that kind of references that, right? But yeah, guys. I should mention too, there's a great POV shot of the tentacles moving that reminds me of like that camera work, the iconic camera work from Evil Dead when the demonic spirit is going for somebody. I was like, all right, Sam, I fucked with this. But yeah, guys, any thoughts on the tentacle attack scene? Hospital scene, sorry. Yeah.
I feel like it's a testament to how good this scene is that I see it circulate just in isolation on the internet all the time. Like, especially I used to see it all the time on Twitter. I see it on Instagram Reels, and like I always pause and watch. Like it's like this brilliantly self-contained little horror movie is how well put together it is. And like people are always like, hey, let's not forget this fucking scene from Spider-Man 3 and remember how absolutely good it is. But yeah, I see that. I don't know if anyone else does this. Spider-Man 2, yeah, there we go. But I see it circulating all the time. Like I see people posting the clips of it all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I always got to stop and watch.
Yeah. Well, Tracy and Ricardo, you'll love the scene, right? Of course. Like, everybody loves the scene, right? Yeah.
I have a memory of, and correct me here, but that doesn't have music behind it, right? It's just
it's just
coldness.
Sound effects. Yeah.
That is okay, good. Yeah. That is therein lies what I loved about it. Because, the doctor making a snide joke about anybody remember shop class and, starting with procedure. And then getting their asses kicked. But there wasn't any music. And that is the thing that stays. Because I had to, for a hot minute, I had to figure out, wasn't there music or was there no music? But the idea of no music behind it, and you're just allowed to sit with that scene is brilliant.
Yeah. As I mentioned music, what that reminds me of, I think it's very reminiscent of the final fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin in the building, right? Where you just hear
Yes.
just how brutal that was. I feel like that's what he was tapping into again, right?
I feel like we always forget that Sam Raimi is a director with a particular penchant for violence, but he tones it back for the Spider-Man movies because he's aware that there are kids who watch these movies, and then he'll like allow a little bit, just a little bit. Like he'll be like, all right, now I've been holding back most of the movie. Here's a little violence. Here's just a little bit of violence for you.
In Multitude of Madness, though, when the X-Men show up, like that was just Sam Raimi just going off the chain. Like,
man,
do this. Yep, I killed them. Yep, that's what we do it. Yeah. But back to Otto, right? So he's like rebuilding the lab and he wants to restart the project, right? So the tentacles suggest to him, in quotes, right, to steal money, right? But I love this little bit of characterization where Otto says the real crime would be not to finish what we started. I like that. That's a very plausible viewpoint for somebody like him to become a villain. Like, I do this for the greater good, so to speak. I think that makes perfect sense. I love that, right? So in terms of references, right? So of course, Sam Raimi's brother, aka Joxer the Mighty from Xena. I remember him from that. Hoffman, right? Yeah, I think in the last film he came up with the name for Green Goblin, right? But this scene is so funny and so meta, right? So I love that he comes up with the name Dr. Octopus, right? For wee boy Jonah Jameson, right? I love Jonah's response is like, that's crap, right? But then Hoffman says, Doctor Strange. And then Jonah says, that's pretty good. But it's taken.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, I was like, wow. So again, Kevin Feige must be watching this like, all right, Sam, we want you for Doctor Strange too. Please. Because, that scene, right? But it's how it ends, though. In pure Jonah Jameson's side, it's like, wait, I got it. Dr. Octopus. Yeah. And they shot the Doc Ock. I love it. J.K. Simmons for the win. That's why he won an Oscar for Whiplash. And he is and forever will be Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, but it's the extension of that.
Right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow.
But yeah,
I caught that one. No, my thinking was the extension of that scene, because after he says Doc Ock and whatever his name is, Joxer, was saying, brilliant. And he's like, what do you want, a raise? Get out of here.
I love that.
Always
that's so Jonah Jameson.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it is, right? So Peter's called into Jonah's office, right? So here's my little stupid theory, right? So his society photographer got hit in the head by a polo ball, right? That's the big excuse, right? So Peter's assigned now to cover this ball at this planetarium where Jonah's son, Captain John Jameson, who is an astronaut, will be attending, right? So back then, because I remember the Venom arc from the animated series, I thought that, I assumed back then that, when Spider-Man 3 come up, John Jameson will come back. He will be the one, can remember from the animated series, who brought the symbiote, accidentally brought it back down to Earth. So I thought, it was going to do that, right? But in this case, this is just a stupid theory. I feel like the photographer who got hit in the head by a polo ball was Eddie Brock, who became Venom. That's just my stupid theory. I think that Eddie was the one who was supposed to go to cover that ball, but, he got hit. So, all right, cool. That's just my stupid theory, right?